So this is a video I've been wanting to put off for quite a while because I didn't really know what to say whenever I hit that record button. This video is pretty much about why I stopped listening to Hamza and why I stopped watching him. So if you guys don't know, Hamza is one of the biggest self-improvement YouTubers in the space at the minute on YouTube. I'd even say he's the biggest on YouTube, and he definitely is one of the fellas who has like the most positive impact in a lot of young men's lives who are on social media. And the reason I started watching him for a long time. I used to watch First Man, if you guys know who that is, and I heard about Hamza through First Man. I started watching him at a few years ago, pretty much whenever like the first year into making his channel, and where he started making videos. And it was like such a breath of fresh air. His videos were so amazing, like they were so different. Like during lockdown, whenever everyone was depressed, he was making videos about, saying things like saying harsh truths about men and about the world. As a young man, I latched onto Hamza a lot and very, very quickly. And I absolutely loved his videos for a long time, and I realized that, a lot of the times I'd watch his videos just because of just pure entertainment value. I already knew the lessons and the things that he was going to say in his videos, and that is my fault because obviously I wasn't really sort of improving my life. But that's not why I make this video. The reason why I stopped listening to Hamza and stopped watching Hamza is because, we're watching someone who is trying to be a cult leader, and he's somebody who is 26 years old and he's still learning in life himself. He's still making mistakes and still learning his lessons, which is absolutely fine. But my problem with Hamza is that whenever he learns something new, he tells everybody to then go and do that, and that's the best way to live. And then 2 months later, he'll then go back on his word and say something else. And here's the thing, like, a lot of people have given him hate for that. I don't really hate him for that. He's just a fellow who's just like figured himself out. But the problem I have with him is that he tells people to do that too, instead of saying things like, this may not work for you, this is where I'm at in my life at the minute, and obviously teaching some lessons from that. But then to tell people that, like, we should all go and try and get that one spiritual girlfriend who's going to be, our future wife, and then, he's saying that based on his current relationship that he's in, and then, a few months later he ends up breaking up with her and going out and partying with the boys. So you see what I'm trying to say. And there's another reason why I stopped watching him as well and stopped listening to him, because a lot of his core audience are just a bunch of sheep. I was in Hamzas Community there a few months ago, where I bought his community and wanted to learn a lot of lessons about his courses. And I put a few posts up on his online communities asking for advice. And the responses I got literally just all sounded like clones of him. One of the purposes about self-improvement is to stop men from being sheep in society and sheep to the government, and to get us to think ourselves and have our own and form our own identity. We went from being sheep in society to then being sheep to self-improvement, because every single thing every single thing I heard in the comment section of that post I put up was just non-stop, like, Hamza clones just like reciting every single line of dialogue that you know what I mean, like every single thing that he said in his videos. And it's like, no one has an authentic opinion, no one has like a genuine take where it's like, okay, you can tell that person was just speaking from experience. It's just a load of young 18-year-olds who are just reciting things that Hamza said in his previous videos, and it's fucking cringe, bro. It's so cringy. Like, and I realize now that, like, why I stopped not just watching Hamza but just doing self-improvement, in the first place, is because it makes us become what we would make fun of and what we would strive away from. It makes us have this sort of like sheep mentality, because as human beings, we're very easily susceptible to manipulation and, cult figures and like cult-like figures from governments and religion. And the dangers about that is because it can very easily make us do stuff that goes against ourselves if we believe in this sort of like cult-like, group mentality. And one of the best ways about self-improvement is to realize that you are an individual, and realize that you have to be an authentic person to yourself and think for yourself and have your own experiences, and then preach those lessons to other people. But also explain to them that, like, I'm just an individual, I'm a person, you are too. This may not work for you. These lessons, these failures, may have happened to me, but they may not work for you. And, you know, you look at Hamza, and I'm not saying he's a manipulator, but in a way he has manipulated people because, you know, he's sold us the idea of, like, you know, this cult of men on self-improvement. And all this really is he's just, you know, it makes us do things like pay £300 for an online course, for an online community where it's just a load of, you know, soulless clones and sheep of men who just are trying so desperate to be Hamza. You know, as young men in this generation, we have no masculinity in our lives. We don't have father figures. You know, either our fathers have left the home entirely, and we've been raised by our mothers. You know, like we, as in the Fight Club, you know, the movie Fight Club made it perfectly whenever it said, you know, we are a generation of men raised by women, and we're so weak and feminine that we latch on to these figures online, desperate to have a sort of masculine figure in our lives. And that is sad, but like it's a very, very sad like state that we're all in at the minute, because our previous generation of, you know, people have failed us. Our mothers and fathers have failed us. We were all young men who were clueless and lost. So like, I don't blame young men for becoming that. You know, it's why I don't blame a lot of young men for actually going down that path where they are so desperate to just, like I said, to have like a sort of masculine presence in their life, that they just completely, you know, instead of creating their own identity as a man, they just copy the identity of someone like Hamza, and they don't realize they're doing it. But you see it when you go into these sort of like cult-like communities of people and you put up a post or you try and interact with other people. It's just a load of, like I said, it's just a load of sheep-like mentality minded people where it's just constant, just like I said, Hamza's audience remind me a lot of like the whole Fight Club film. If you've never seen Fight Club, I love mentioning it in my videos because it's an amazing film. Hamzas Community reminds me of like the Operation Mayhem group that Fight Club formed at the end of the film, where they're all just like, they went from being men who were meant to be free from their, you know, free from the constraints of society and find their masculinity again and, you know, be able to be free, only to just turn into sheep and, you know, recite all these rules of Fight Club whenever things gets tough, and they're all like little lost puppies whenever shit gets hard. And like, there's a scene in the film where one of the members gets shot in the head, and they're all saying his name over and over again. His name is Robert Paul. If you've seen the film, you'd know what I mean. And it's like, you see what I'm saying? Like, that generally reminds me so much of like Hamza's Community, where it's like, you go into the comment section or you go into like the thing, and it's all these like little kids saying, like, just repeating shit that Hamza said. And, you know, I don't know, man, it just made me step away from self-improvement a lot, being like, you know, I came into this space wanting to be free and wanting to be authentic and wanting to like be my own man and wanting to grow. You know, I wanted to stop being a sheep to society, but this is what we went from being sheep to then turning into different sheep in a different sort of environment. So if you're somebody who's watching this and you want to get some value out of this, and you do watch Hamza, just have that little bit of awareness about you know. Stop watching his videos and think and copying him so much about his life, because he's just a young man who's living his life. He's going to make mistakes, he's going to say things. I'm not saying you should trust him, but like, stop being so like, stop listening to everything he says as gospel, you know, where if he has a few months where he feels like he's going down this road where he's going to be more spiritual, or he's going to be more of a fuckboy, or if he's going to be more of the sort of like rich, you know, entrepreneur, Andrew Tate sort of like influencer, stop listening to everything he says and take it 100% at face value. Take those experiences into your own life and form who you are, because that's how you're ever going to be a man. You have to go out into the world and actually just live in it, instead of sitting indoors all day and just listening to the life lessons of other people who are growing far more than you. Hamza's a rich man. He's made a lot of money from what he does, and fair play to him for doing that. Like, I generally have no hate for him, but like I said before, the only person who's actually, you know, growing on the only person who's actually self-improving is Hamza. And all the people who are watching his videos mainly just watch his videos and don't actually go out into the real world and live their life. Because if you did the opposite, if you never watched any Hamza videos, right, you went out into the world and weren't on social media, you would be far more experienced and far more capable as a man than what you are now, you know, because that's all we are. We're all just a bunch of lost dogs at the end of the day. This is the same man who told us how to have long-term relationships and how to be with a woman for a long-ass time, when this is a fella who realistically has never really been in a long-term relationship himself. Either have I, but I'm no longer going to listen to a man who, you know, who has gone through multiple girlfriends and never had like a proper long-term relationship. I'm not going to listen to a man like that tell me how to, you know, be in a long-term relationship with a woman, because he has no lessons to teach there. I'm going to listen to, you know, the only person I'm going to listen to is someone who has multiple kids and is living a very happy relationship with his woman for 10, 20 years. That's the type of people you listen to, because they have the thing that you want. Stop listening, you know, just because Hamza's jacked and he has 2 million subs, it doesn't mean that everything that comes out of his mouth is right, you know? So I hope this video can help some people, and, you know, I hope you can take something out of this. Don't waste your time looking back, we're not going that way.